Morning, everyone. This is Krissi with Trail Talk. I am here with Ryan Montgomery, who runs for Janji and the Feed, as well as Ultimate Direction in Sunto. Ryan, how are you doing?
Hello, good morning. I'm doing well. I'm actually about to drive out to Tahoe here in like a couple hours from Utah. So the stoke is getting real and I'm getting excited.
Awesome. Well, we can't wait to have you back. You were a resident for a couple years in the area during COVID. So hopefully it feels like a second home to you.
It certainly does. I feel like it's a coming home moment every time I crest the hill coming into Truckee. It's like so special. So I can't wait to smell the Tahoe air, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's pretty good right now. It's pretty fresh. Everything has been beautiful lately. So it's ready for you.
Cool, can't wait.
So Ryan, you've had a bit of a multi-year journey going into Western states. Back in 2020, you were expected to run the race, and of course, COVID happened. And then you had a bit of a multi-year process of getting a golden ticket and then getting injured, having some time away from the Western States journey, and
hmm
then getting another golden ticket at Tarawera, and finally getting to run states after, call it 3 years last year of this
hmm
process. You got your seventh place. I think we all kind of knew it was your moment to get into that top 10. How do you approach going into year two compared to all of the buildup for year one?
Yeah, as I reflect on my Western States last year, it was truly like a celebration moment for me because of that saga of multiple years of just trying to get to the start line healthy. And so when I think about 2023, yeah, I pushed myself hard. I had a plan and I executed it. And for the most part, it went pretty well. If I think about where I'm at today compared to last year, I would say last year I ran my own race. I had goals. The goals were top 10. I achieved that. And in on a large macro scale, like I definitely ran within my range. I ran quote unquote conservatively and then strategically pushed at times. I think when I think about 2024, I have so much more experience now, not only in Western states. I'm also like, I would consider myself to be a veteran in 100-mile racing. I've done 13 to 15 100-mile races in my career at the age of 30. So I've experienced everything that can happen in a 100-mile race. And so I'm taking a lot of that experience and I'm also taking new level of fitness this year. My training is up about 15 to 20% in terms of volume. So the combination of these things, I think, yields and will result in a way more aggressive race for me in 2024 next week. So what does that mean? I think it means significant time improvement, and my plan is also significant placement improvement as well. So that's the plan, that's the vision, that's the goal. It's going to be a push, but I'm really excited to see what I'm capable of on the 29th.
Awesome. And, reflecting on that breadth of experience that you have, I think, for a long time, your experience in the sport was a bit under the radar. I mean, you've done everything under the sun, every distance. You've done Badwater, Tahoe 200, but you've also, as we talked about, you've done Javelina. You've done a lot of fast, desert solstice style running. So how do you compare, maybe past Ryan and past training? You mentioned you're going higher volume. You were already pretty a high kind of volume runner from the outside. How do you approach kind of leveling up, especially with a field like Western States?
Mm. Something I took away from last year is I think there's been a huge component of like the mental side of training. Like people don't talk about that much. Like we all look at Strava, we all look at, oh, this person's doing 120-mile weeks, this person's doing 90-mile weeks. But like fitness is fitness. But as we know, anything in 100-mile racing, you have to be mentally fit. You have to believe in yourself. you have to like be able to push when the push is hard. And I think that's, if anything, that's more important than being able to run 30 extra mile weeks, you know? And so last year, being able to perform on like such a large stage and to beat some of the world's best and to be in the mix with some of the world's best was like a really validating moment to me that like, Ryan, you are in the mix. And it really, when it comes down to it, is who believes in themselves more. Like truly at the end of the day, it's like, do you have the power and do you believe in yourself to go when that moment happens? And so I think for me, that's like the biggest thing I'm bringing into this race this year is that I really believe in myself to be able to be among the best. And so, yeah, my training is up, but at the end of the day, I think that's frivolous actually. It's actually like I really mentally believe in myself to execute and to, you know, potentially podium. Like, it feels a little weird to say that from someone who used to, my first 100-mile race was like a 27-hour finish. And then, like, when I first started doing these races, I was like, quote unquote, like middle of the pack runner. But I think my journey has just been up and to the right every single year. And so, like, who's to say that Ryan Montgomery can't podium? Like, my mental acceptance of that or not is what's going to limit me. So.
That's incredible. And I think also speaking to that experience and knowing yourself is knowing your body and having
Yes.
confidence in what your body can do and where you're at with fitness and just the journey overall.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I just need to like lean into my experience and like I know I have it. And yeah, I think about last year, Chrissy, when I came out of the canyon section in Michigan Bluff. I don't know if and you were there, but I remember
Yeah.
Finn was there and he was like, Ryan, you look rough because I really had a bad moment. I like took 4 minutes at the aid station and I was like a disaster. And then I left that aid station feeling like a whole new athlete, a whole new racer. And so it's like experiences like that at Western States where it's like, yeah, things can be going really bad, but then 10 minutes later, things can be going really well again. And it's having the confidence to like lean into that, because other people might like let that get to them. But for me, it's like, it's no problem. I know things are going to get bad. I welcome it actually, so that I can get through that.
Yeah, it's like getting into the Courtney DeWalter pain cave. It's like
Yeah.
that's how you learn and that's how you come back stronger and know that that next level of potential is there.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's truly
And
where champions are made. So yeah, I love it.
I love that approach and that way of thinking about it because you are right. Everything in ultra is constantly changing and you have to just adapt and then you can adapt.
And that's the fun part. Like ultra running it's so much more than just like moving your feet. It's like active problem solving, like almost every 20 minutes. You're like, okay, now I'm going down this hill. My foot hurts. Okay. I'm gonna like make a slight adjustment. Okay, we're good. You're constantly having this feedback loop. And that's so exciting. And yeah, I'm just really excited to bring that experience to the table. So
Do you find that a lot of that problem solving and critical thinking comes from career Ryan as well?
mm, probably. I mean, my day job is like a lot of my professional background has been being put into situations where there is no answer, there's no one else to answer to. I'm on the spot, and I have to ask the questions of, okay, here's a problem. Let me dig into the problem. Let me ask some questions. Let's recognize the problem. A lot of times I'm sitting with clients in my consulting career where like no one knows how to solve the problem, but I'm going to be the one that's like, I've never done this before, but like, I know how to ask questions and I know how to be curious. And I think those types of skill sets and those attributes like maybe yield really well in ultra running because, I'll be like running in a race and, I have a side stitch and I'm like, ooh, that doesn't feel good, but I like wonder what that means. Let's just let it exist for like 5 minutes and see what happens and just like acknowledge it, and then most of the time it goes away or maybe it moves to some other place. It's like really fun to like learn these things as they go. So yeah, I think part of it probably comes from my curiosity as a working professional, but maybe also I'm just good at suffering too.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't hurt that you can sit in that pain, that's for sure.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Well, riffing kind of off of that, we'll go into, what your strategy is for the race. You said last year you really raced kind of within yourself and for yourself. This year you're going to get a lot more ambitious.
Hmm.
So are you looking at this field in a certain way? Obviously, I think we have a couple tier of really competitive people. We've got Walmsley and the people that'll go with him maybe, and then, maybe a chase pack. How are you approaching your strategy compared to the other runners, as well as, maybe we can then talk about your strategy for yourself and how you approach maybe the course.
Yeah, I love like when we speculate on 100-mile racing because like we think we know what's going to happen, but we really don't know. And, as much as Jim is our reigning champion, he also could not be as fit. We don't know. Like, we don't know, a lot of things. What does that mean for me? I think it means that I am going to be a little bit more focused on positioning this year. Like, I want to be closer to the front. I don't think I want to be in the front at all, but I think I perform my best when I have something to chase. I reflect back in at Javelina 2021 when I was in second place and I was needing that golden ticket and Cole Watson was like on my butt for literally 60 miles. Like that was not a fun position to have like someone a minute behind me for like a 100K. So I like to have a goal and like to chase that. So what does that mean? Definitely not in 10th place, but probably not second place the whole time. I also think some of my strong suit is the second half of the course, like rolling terrain, flat and fast. Like that is like where I shine. Thankfully, that's the second half when people are tired, and so I can hunt people down. So, yeah, I think the strategy is good positioning. Second half, first half, second half, aggressive and hunt. So,
So yes, you're looking to stay in touch and then kind of
mhm.
have the prototypical like hit Forest Hill ready to race,
Yeah,
like
exactly.
really chase people.
Yeah, and maybe even like earlier on. I think last year I didn't really start quote unquote racing until the river. Like at the river, that's really when I started going into my next gear. I think this also means I'm going into my next gears way earlier than that.
Okay. So are you thinking like Robinson Flat potentially starting to turn on a bit and then hitting Michigan, really ready to go?
Yeah, I might explore in the canyon section. Um, I don't think I'm gonna feel great in the canyons, so we'll see. But definitely Michigan Bluff forward.
You mean you don't thrive in 110, 115-degree weather?
Going up a 20% grade? Probably not. We'll see.
Gotcha. And then do you look at heart rate splits? Is it all just based on effort and feeling and knowing yourself?
Yeah, it's totally based on effort. I feel like when run so much, at any given time, I can probably look down and tell you my heart rate. So I don't bother with heart rate in racing. So, yeah, it'll just be perceived effort.
Okay, great. And then what is your approach for crew? Are
Mm.
you doing a full crew, one crew, two crew? How are
Yeah,
you approaching kind of aid station?
this year's different because last year we didn't have the option of two crews because the aid stations of Duncan and Dusty Corners
Yeah.
were closed to crew. And so, yeah, this year I'm going to have an A and B crew. I'm going to see how that goes. But the crews that hit me at Dusty Corners and Duncan Canyon, they're going to be super efficient. They're just like giving me water, nutrition stuff. My main stop will be probably if Robinson probably will change shoes there. So that'll take an extra few seconds there. But
Okay.
yeah, it will be
And
fun to see have two crew. I've never done it before, so we'll see how it goes.
yeah, it is a good way to get that efficiency through aid stations and really cut
Hmm.
back on having to take care of yourself a bit.
Yeah, exactly.
And then are you going to do pacers?
I will. Yeah, my friend Rachel Norfleet will probably be my first pacer, and she's like my sister. I love her so much. And then I have my good friend from the Bay Area, which you probably know, Austin Meyer.
Yeah.
Austin will be pacing me from the river to the finish.
And then in terms of, I kind of want to touch on your extended community because obviously you probably have a pretty like tight, efficient crew.
Mhm.
But you come from living in the Bay Area, from living in Tahoe. There's a lot of Utah runners that are going to be out there, and we can talk about kind of the Forest Hill itself. You organize these runs called out trails,
Mhm.
and you're actually one of our very few non-binary runners in the field. And so talk about how the community either helps with your race, and how you're feeding off of that.
Mm. Yeah, I've actually written about this a bit in some of our like ultra running community like media outlets, whether it's like Ultra Trail Running, or sorry, magazines, Trail Runner Mag, Ultra Sign Up News. But like the more that you can lean into your identity and the more that like you can be a whole person, I think it really is an elevator of performance. And so it's something I've really have worked on for myself the past few years is like how can I lean into my identity and my community as a queer person more and more, um, and so something that I learned about myself last year, or not necessarily new, but like accelerated this learning, is that I really channeled like the community of queer people all over last year. And it came like full circle when I ran through Forest Hill, the 60-mile mark. I remember seeing when I came through, there were like pride flags everywhere. And I remember I just like was so excited to see all this like gay paraphernalia that I like remember like screaming and waving, and the crowd was like responding. It was like such a fun moment. And I just remember last year when I was running, I was like, I want to hit the track in Auburn and I want to carry this pride flag and I want to have like this moment, not to like throw pride or throw queer culture in people's faces, but it was for me. It was my moment where I wanted to be able to embrace like all of my experiences to date and have this full circle moment where I could hit this track and like embrace my identity as a queer person and like celebrate that. Like that was like what was fueling me like all day long. And so what does that mean now, like as an athlete? It means that like I'm constantly thinking about my out trails community where I hear stories of queer people that don't feel safe running, and so I'm running for them. Or, I have a lot of trans friends through out trails now where they tell me that they literally carry a booklet of like medical records, like a full folder of medical records, so that if someone contests them being able to run, that they can like prove that they've been on hormone therapy for years. I'm running for those people. I'm running for so many people that like don't have the same privilege as me. And like that amps me up, that fires me up. Like that makes this day and this performance in this race like so much more beyond me. And that's just like a whole nother superpower that I can tap into.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have an incredible platform and you've used it, very consciously. Um, and it seems like those external motivators just are just that icing on the cake, that extra for you. But even more so, it's been really special to watch your personal journey and uplifting yourself as well. And that's not something that everybody has. That's part of Ryan's special sauce.
Yeah, yeah. And actually, to correct you, you used the language of like icing on the cake. And maybe I thought in the past, like my queer identity and that queer power is the icing on the cake. But actually, I think it's the opposite now. I think it's like foundational. It is like my
Mm.
foundational like element that I bring to the table now. So it's kind of
Icing.
fun to
So
think about it that way.
yeah, it's not
It's
an
the
extra
cake.
motor. Yeah, it is the motivator, and everything else
It
is
is the
icing that goes with
flour
it.
in the cake now.
Nice. Thank you for that explanation.
Mhm.
So let's touch back onto the race and the strategy as you string all these things together throughout. And let's talk about your gear.
Yeah.
So you run for Janji. You've got Ultimate Direction products. I'm assuming you're using. Tell me what your approach is to vest, handheld, waist belt, and how your crew might maybe interchange those for you.
Yeah, I'm doing the same thing as last year, which is I started with a vest just because I thought it was nice to have a vest in the high country, so I can carry a bit more nutrition and give my arms a rest. And then at Robinson Flat, I will transition to handhelds, just so I can be a little bit more nimble.
Yeah.
And then I did switch back to a pack actually at Michigan Bluff to Forest Hill just to give my arms a break. So I might do that again. And you can even like put ice in your vest. I think I might try that again. We'll see how that works. So yeah, definitely starting with the vest and mostly handhelds throughout the race. I'm a big belt runner, so I love belts. So I'll be wearing a belt too, just because you can like fit all like bunch of snacks in there, and they don't have to be like wedged down in a vest in like a random pocket that you forgot about, like it's all accessible. And then shout out to Janji. They make like such good products, and my favorite are the half tights because there's pockets on the sides, but there's like two layers of pockets. So like you can even put more nutrition there. And so I just like love those pockets for like being able to do nutrition in ultra races. Did I answer all your questions? Anything else I missed?
Yeah. I mean, so then we'll go off of that and talk about. You mentioned it seems like you're kind of taking high country gear and then kind of rest of race gear. You mentioned changing shoes at Robinson. So what shoes are
Mm.
you going with this year? If you could talk about
Ooh,
that.
yeah. So because I don't have a shoe sponsor, it's been kind of fun to like I know this is gonna be so funny, but I feel like 2024 has been like I call it my shoe hoe era. I'm like a total shoe hoe. I've tried all different brands and models, and it's been so fun, but also very overwhelming. What does that mean? Like, where did I land for Western States? I think I'm actually going to be wearing Nike shoes.
Okay.
So I'm going to be wearing, I think, Zagamas, the new Zagamas, to start, and then I think I'm gonna be wearing the Ultra Flies to finish. Hmm.
Yeah, I love hearing that because I know you've gone, from a handful of years with shoe sponsors where you were a bit more pigeonholed. And
Hmm.
so we here at Trail Talk love to talk about shoes and the differences. So are you looking at the Zagamas for kind of the Vibram, the grippier, more
Yeah,
rugged shoe, and the Ultra Fly just to get that kind of speed in the more runnable sections?
yeah. I'm thinking of like Nike Zagama for high country, everything else Ultra Fly.
Nice. And with that, will you be changing socks, and how are you approaching kind of your cooling as you go throughout the course?
Yeah, I usually don't change my socks just because it just sounds really annoying to take off your sock. And like
Yeah.
most of the time, like your sock will like dry. So I feel like most of the time it's like the shoe is like still soggy, and that's what makes like your foot
Mm.
like kind of wrinkly. So I didn't change my sock last year. I probably won't do that. But in terms of cooling, yeah, it's gonna be hotter this year compared to last year, so I don't think I'm gonna change any of my strategies, but I think that just means like a typical ice around my neck. I might be running in a bucket hat. Like I still haven't decided yet of a bucket hat or a hat. So maybe I can fit more ice in my hat, but I'm pretty like simple when it comes to cooling. Like I put ice in my hat. I have like frozen handhelds probably at some certain points, and just like try to get myself wet as much as possible. Like it's pretty straightforward. try not to do anything super fancy. So
Yeah. Do you feel like you kind of know the creeks to hit now, having done the race once and done some training out
yeah,
here as
I'm
well?
not a big like jump in the creek person. Like
Okay.
I don't really like to get wet, really. Like I'll get wet obviously because I like need to cool, but like I know I was talking to Jeff Cole at the training camp last month and he's like, "Yeah, I jumped in the creek down at El Dorado." And I was like, "That's not me. Like I don't want to jump in a river, so
Okay. So you're
unless
gonna
I'm
keep,
forced to."
yeah. So you're gonna keep ice going the whole time, and it sounded like frozen bottles, but you're not gonna have the approach of like stay wet the whole time necessarily.
Yeah, like, and like get pour water on me at the aid station, but like beyond that, like I don't need to jump into a river just to jump in a river. Like we're gonna be
Okay.
running through rivers anyway, so I think that's fine.
All right. Um, and then let's go into your nutrition. You're sponsored by the
Okay.
feed. So
Hmm.
does that give you, you've obviously been trying a lot of products as well, on
Hmm.
top of trying a lot of shoes, right? So what are you thinking in terms of nutrition? Are you a gel guy, a chew guy, variety, same thing throughout?
Yeah. I have trained my body to eat primarily liquid and gel calories for 100 miles, which is so disgusting, but it's just way more efficient. So I'll be eating, I might have like a few waffles in the high country, but for the most part, I'll be just doing gels. I really like the precision fuel and hydration gels. They make like these, I call them like the big boy gels. You've probably seen
Yeah.
them. They're like 90 grams of carbohydrates in like one pouch. So I'll be like sucking those down throughout the day. And then I'll have some other products to mix things up, like a Martin. I know people are controversial about Spring Energy. I think the whole situation is not great, but at the end of the day, I like the flavor. So it's more of just like to change the flavor up in my mouth and gut. So I'll probably take some of those. And then I'm a really salty sweater, and so I'll probably have like I really like the precision stuff. Like for whatever
Yeah.
reason, it's just like works for me. Like I can just chug it all day and it doesn't upset my stomach. Because you know how some products will have like a lot of fructose forward and it's just like overwhelmingly sweet? Like if I drink something like that for more than a few hours, I just end up wanting to like revolt from it. And so it's like
Mm.
being able to find something that's palatable for a very long time. And their products seem to work really well for me. So I'll probably do that. And then typically, I get to a point in an ultra marathon where like nothing sounds good other than Coca-Cola. And I call that like the running on fumes moment, which usually happens at like mile 80. And so I'll just like drink water and Coca-Cola pretty much, which is kind of fun. And it tastes so good.
So Green Gate on, get right,
Green Gate on,
Coca-Cola.
I'm fueled on Coke and water.
And are you looking at any, you talked about Springs and Martins and Precision. Are you looking at any carb or calorie goals, or is it just eat often?
Yeah, I'm not a person that's like, I gotta get like 120 grams carbs and like we're not running fast enough to even like need that much. So generally like I shoot for around like 80. And if I can do more than that, awesome. If I'm doing a little less than that, not great, but it's not the end of the world. So I'll shoot for like 80 plus grams an hour. Yeah, that's my plan.
Yeah. And then what are you doing liquid wise? You said you're a salty sweater. So do you have water and electrolytes? Do you have any liquid carbs?
Yeah, there's a few different products I'm going to be using. I'll start the race with a carb and electrolyte mix. Precision makes this mix that has electrolytes and carbohydrates in this like mixture. I find that really palatable. I drank that the whole time at Quad Rock last month, and it worked for me. So I'm gonna try to do that as much as possible, just because it has like the added carbohydrates. But something I've learned about myself over the years is like I used to use Martin's.
Drink
like
mix.
drink mix, but it's so carbohydrate heavy that it actually would make me dehydrated because I needed more liquid volume actually. And so what I've learned is like I actually need to prioritize drinking electrolytes and eating my carbohydrates because I just need such large volume of liquids. So when it gets hot, I'm going to be just drinking straight like 750 milligrams of sodium per bottle just because I need so many electrolytes, and then as in gels my
Yep.
carbohydrates so that I don't get dehydrated. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, your body processes each thing differently, and you do need a
Mm-hmm.
lot of water to get those carbs through. So I think
Mm-hmm.
that makes a lot of sense. Are
Yeah.
you looking at a certain volume of liquid per hour? Are you doing two 500 flasks, three flasks?
I'm just going to be doing two because most likely I'll have two handhelds.
Okay,
But
right,
the strategy is just drink as much as I possibly can.
great. Yeah, just
I
keep it
mean,
all
we
coming
can
in and
say
balance
that
it out.
like, yeah, I'm not a person who's like, I have to get 1 liter per 45 minutes. Like, no, at the end of the day, it's like, get as much as your body can absorb. Like, that's the strategy.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I think we've covered everything from how you approach the race to gear and nutrition. Is there anything else you want to talk about? You're excited about coming into the race or the race itself?
I'm just excited to feel like I'm going to have a whole new experience this year because we won't be running through 18 miles of snow. It's going to feel like a whole new race, you know? So I'm just excited for like the newness factor of that, you know? So that's going to be fun.
Yeah, I mean, as someone who's really good at the fast and flat stuff, this hopefully plays to your advantage to get more running in and less slopping around.
Yeah. I'm not upset that I won't be falling down tree wells this year. I remember like me and Tom Evans fell down like this 10-foot tree well and like crawled our way out of it up in the high country last year. So I won't miss that. But yeah, it'll be fun to run on dirt for a little bit, actually.
Yeah, you get enough winter in Utah that when you're done with it, you're ready to be done with it.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Ryan, it was so good to have you and to catch up. Look forward to seeing you here in Olympic Valley in the coming days, and thank you for joining us.